we're going to be looking at 5 biggest challenges foreign trained nurses experience when they move to US. So it might be this nurse that is moving from Africa. When you think about Africa, it has different countries. We have Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa, Zambia, Ghana. There's so many countries. Or it can be this nurse that is coming from Jamaica, or it can be this nurse that is coming from Philippines. Most of the time, initially when you're trying to relocate to US, you are just preparing for it, you're doing exams, you're trying to evaluate your papers. So we may not necessarily understand what it means when you come the first 1 to 2 years. So this video will be able to really tell you some of the common mistakes that most of the nurses who come to US the first 1 to 2 years, they do make. By you understanding the 5 mistakes, you'll be able to avoid them. Some of these mistakes is because my friends experienced them. Some of them I experienced them as a person when I came here. It can be relating to you as a person, or it can be relating to the work environment, or just you adjusting to the new country. So what are these mistakes? The first one is understanding the cultural adjustment. There is a lot of adjustment that needs to be done. One of my friends who came from St. Vincent, she said one of the things that she experienced the most was her understanding that it was important for her the first 1 to 2 years to really understand how she will be taking care of her child. She came to US from St. Vincent. So she had a daughter. She may not necessarily had family members to support her. So there was a lot that is expected because you've come to this new country. 2, you have a child to take care of. 3, you have a work that you have to do maybe 36 hours in a week. So how do you balance between it? What are the things that you need to have in place for you to be able to still meet the commitment for work, have the commitment for your child, and have the commitment for yourself? So there is a lot that you need to adjust. Even me, when I came to this country, yes, I came with my child, my husband, and myself. So it was really important for us to really sit down and think in terms of how are we going to take care of the family. Because when you come here, you come with a green card. So you have only come the family, the nuclear family, which entails the spouse, you as a nurse, and your children who are less than 21 years. So that means you may not necessarily have the support that you had back at home. So one of the things that is really important is for you as a family to sit down and realize what you really truly have to adjust as a family. Because you find many nurses, when they come to US, they might even have family conflict or marital issues just because they never sat down to think in terms of what are some of the adjustments that they truly need to have. The second other thing that is really important, one of the mistakes that many people really make, is not understanding the US health system. When you're coming to work, for example, in an hospital, it's important for you to understand what does it mean? How does the hospital operate in US? What are the requirements for you as a nurse? Like you'll find you're hourly paid, you need to clock in. What is the time that you're required to clock in? If, for example, you're required to be at work at 6:45, are you required to clock in at 6:38, or is it okay for you to clock in at 6:30? So it's important for you to understand the system and how it works. What is the cultural expectation? What are the things that you really need to know? So one of the other things that is important when it comes to health system understanding is for you to understand how their medical insurance works. Like you might find, like in my country, it used to be when you're employed, your employer paid for all the premiums for you to be medically insured. When you come to US system, it may not be the same. You might be required to make some premium payment. So it's really important for you to understand the system and how it works. Another thing that is really important is the retirement system. Because you might find that in Kenya, The employer paid for your retirement. You did not have to participate in it. You never contributed in it. But if you come here and you do not understand how the system works, how does the 401k work? What are the requirements for you to be successful or to set yourself for retirement? One other thing that mistakes that we make is not understanding the language barrier. I know most of the people think, oh, been speaking English all my life. Because in Kenya, the official language, for example, is English. But you might find the English is different. In terms of the words might be different. You might say one thing and people don't understand what you're saying. A good example is a simple thing. Like if I'm taking a patient to the operation room, here it's common for them to say OR. In Kenya, it was common for us to say we are taking them to theater. If you told a nurse here that I'm taking this patient to theater, they're like, you're taking them to the movies? No. It's just that it's common for them to call it operation room. So it's a different language, the way they are used to saying things. So you might be so used to saying things in a particular way, you might have to adjust a little bit. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. For example, in Kenya, we used to call ECG. Here they like to call it EKG. So you might be telling a nurse, oh, I need to do an ECG on a patient. It's not wrong. It's just that they may not necessarily understand what you mean because they're used to saying EKGs. So the language might be a little different. And it's important for you to adjust because it's us who have come to their country. So it's us who need to adjust to the language. One other important thing is about network. It's important for you to identify some of the networks that are there that you can be able to adjust to the system easily. When I talk about network is, for example, when you come, for example, whichever state that you go to, you might find there are already foreign trained nurses in that area that you can be able to network with them and learn to understand what works for them. What are some of the things? What are some of the resources that are there? Or you can still, for example, you are living in a gated community. You might find that that gated community has some social activities that take place. It's important for you to be able to network with them, for you to interact with them, to be able to fit better into the system. Another major mistake that I see is financial commitments. It's one thing for you to know that you've come to a new country, but then you need to really understand the financial commitment because you still have your family back in your country, but you still have to adjust to this new country. So you might be buying new cars. So do you need a car that will be helping you move from point A to point B, or do you need a brand new car that is maybe 2024 that it's so expensive that you're paying premiums of 1,000? So you just need to really understand the financial commitment that you're making. Because it's very easy to come into this country and get into unnecessary debt. But you need to really understand what's the commitment that I'm putting in place. What does it mean to me? Is it manageable? Is it something that I'll be able to take? So it's really important for you to understand the system easily. If it comes to rental, how much am I renting? What is the commitment that I'm putting myself into? It's really important for you to balance your life, work balance and life balance. It's important for you to realize you don't want to just keep running, picking extra shifts, and you never self-care for yourself. Because then you're going to end up with burnout. You will be talking to people and they're looking at you and they're thinking, something is not right. It's just because you're running from one shift to another. But if you truly plan well and you think about what you're truly committing to. So today we've covered the 5 common mistakes that you are likely to make as a new nurse in US. One of the common ones that we've talked about, the cultural adjustment. We've talked about you not understanding the system. We've talked about the language communication barriers, the network, and the financial commitment. So keep looking for my next video. Thank you.